here.
I was so busy grooving on the music again. I was just like, oh yeah, this is the cut. I was just bobbing my head and then it stopped. I was
Mm.
like, uh-oh. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to the flow. Oh, this is cool. How you doing, Kate?
I'm doing great. This is a weird feeling for us because we are officially switched over to Ecamm for Zoom for recording this episode. So we're
Awesome
a little
sauce.
I'm distracted. I'm going to close my comments here so that I get less distracted.
Well, it's also distracting because it's freaking freezing over there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's 62 here. I'm dying, so I know you're freezing.
It's about 20 and then there's a wind chill and I'm taking the kids skiing later and I'm filled with regret. I'm filled with all the regret. It's going to be a Katie popsicle.
This freaking Blair. What are you doing, Blair? Leave people alone. Okay, so you know what it is, people. We're gonna get our record on. If you're brand new around here, say what's up. Katie, let me take a moment to introduce you to one of the newest members of the LGO fam, but she's hanging out with us today, which is super
Woo!
cool. There's simply her name is Taisha, but
Oh, I see her. Yeah.
My Japanese reading face always wants to say Taisha, which is funny because in Japanese, Taisho would be you, boss. Taisha is
Oh, well,
boss.
see, now I was going to say welcome, but now you've said her name in like 7 different ways that I'm definitely going to screw it up.
It's
So
just
just for you,
Taisha.
Taisha,
It's just
welcome,
like
welcome,
Taisha. It's
welcome.
like the old TV show, Mo to the E to
All
the
right.
anyway.
I love it.
So she's super cool. Yesterday I made a video on my channel, which was super cool. We were trying to figure out how to do a thumbnail, and we
Yeah.
realized that in Final Cut, you can actually pull the whole frame in Final Cut, and because of one of the new updates, you can mask yourself really easy. So like where you're sitting in your room, it would cut you and the mic out, and then the mushroom back would be on a separate layer. So you could
Uh-huh.
put the title behind you, like you always see in those swanky movies and whatnot. And I made a really cool tutorial how to do
Oh,
it, and I used her
all
her
right.
picture. So she's
All right.
Ecam fam now, so we'll be mean to her like everybody else. Okay.
Well, a huge welcome. I'm not going to be mean. So welcome, welcome. And actually, we should say before we officially jump into this episode, for anyone that is watching now, because there's still time since this episode doesn't officially release until next week. Today, right now, January 7th, Doc is arriving here soon in like a matter of days, and Doc and I and Ken and Marshall and Luis and Mary Lou and a whole bunch of other Liz, there's like a ton of
D
people
from
all
Shore.
heading, yep, all heading over to Podfest, which is happening January 16, 17, 18, and 19 in Orlando. So if you are in Orlando or you're going to Podfest or you're gonna try to get to Podfest at Orlando, definitely reach out and let us know that you'll be there so we can make time to see you. We still have a couple of open spots left in our Disney meetup day. We're going Doc and I are team Star Wars, so we're back at Star Wars with Jeff and with Lou Mangello and with all of the cool people. So if you want to come hang out with us after Podfest, that's on the 19th. We'd love to see you there. So slight plug. I know the timeline is tight, so you might be listening to this going, I can't make it, but wanted to let you know just in case you can.
Dude, super excited about Star Wars Day.
Star
Okay,
Wars
gang. So
Day.
you know what it is. We record the podcast live and then we put it out next week. Luis is back there somewhere doing work. So we're going to count this down. If you have questions, go ahead
Oh
and
no.
drop a cue in there. Katie, do not switch cameras.
I'm not back to full level yet, guys. I'm sorry. I'm
Hey, it's
sorry.
all good in the hood. It's new year, new me, same tech.
Same Katie making mistakes just for
Hey,
your pleasure.
are you on your Me Too, by the way?
I am on my meat too. Yeah.
Man, that thing is freaking gorgy. I like it. It
Crystal
looks
clear,
good.
crystal clear.
It's
I
so
am seeing a little
crazy.
bit of, oh no, on this side, I have to touch my face to see a little bit of white light. And that's because I don't have my blackout blind yet on my window. And it's like actually sunny, cold but sunny here.
Oh, man, I hard to
Mhm.
believe that is like $120, $130 camera, something crazy like
It's
that.
nuts. Yeah.
Okay, gang, let's count it down and let's get to recording.
Check it out.
Breathe it out.
Hmm.
In five, four. Oh, take off the hat. Since Eden's not here, I don't have to rub it in. Five, four. Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to the Flow. It is 2025, and we are on episode like 98 or 99. It's something
My
crazy like that.
goodness.
I
I
forgot.
we're
That's it. We've been doing this so long, I don't even remember.
we're gonna celebrate episode 100 with a journey out to Podfest this year
There you
and
go.
a Disney Star Wars Day. So expect lots of fun behind the scenes ridiculousness as we dive into
I
the
was
world of
gonna say
podcasting.
I'll order a shrimp cocktail, so you can make it fancy. But if I
No,
eat that, then I'll be sick because I can't eat
don't do
shrimp.
that. Yeah, don't do that. Steak and whiskey. You're a steak and whiskey guy. Do
Steak
that.
and whiskey is on.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're like Katie said, we're heading to Podfest,
Mhm.
and what's really cool is this is the first show of the year,
Mhm.
and I love to go in and get sort of a state of the union for what's going on in the space.
Yep.
I like to say, as much as you, and I think this is hyper important, as much as you record your shows and do your edits and practice your skills and all of the other, various tasks it takes to run a podcast, I think it's super important that you also just study the industry and stay up on it
Mhm.
because you don't want to find out 6 months later something that you should have been doing that would have probably helped you or made life easier. So I have some content trends. I have some guesses, predictions.
Some
I have
great
some
guesses.
predictions. And then I also wanted to sort of hip you to some of the stats about podcasts because
Yeah.
if you're still tripping, okay, let me make it English instead of doc. If you're still like, oh, I'm not sure, should I do this? I want to let you know you need to hurry up because the stats are off the chain.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit you guys with a one right now just because it's a heater. 48% of the podcast listening audience globally, female.
Mhm. We're
That means you
listening to
dominate.
podcasts, my friends. We're
That
listening
means
to
you dominate,
podcasts. Yeah.
right? Because there's normally a 4 to 5% standard deviation. So if you pull that out, that means the
Mhm.
guys are at like 44, 45. So I mean, like legit, that's crushing. That is crushing. So
That actually it makes sense because I mean total non-accurate sample, but in my household, like I'm listening to podcasts 24/7. I have them like in my ears or on my phone or on my my computer or on the TV. That's kind of my like while I'm cleaning, while I'm taking the dog for a walk, while I'm driving the kids places in the background while I'm doing things. Whereas Dane is very much of a like YouTube tutorial guy. So he's like watching like how to do something while he's
his
trying to
his
do the thing,
engineering.
right? He's less of a podcast. He does listen to some, but definitely not as many as me. So I would say that number checks out in my mind. Katie approved metric. That makes sense
No,
to
that's
me.
a very phenomenal metric. And
Yeah.
that means it's good because it's one of those things where I think a lot of people are still under the false impression, like, well, no one's going to listen to me. And
Mm,
well, you're right. You're 100% right. No one's going to listen to you because you didn't publish the episode. It's
yep.
I can't
So true.
listen. I'm talking to you, Karen. I can't listen to the thoughts in your head. If you don't tell me, then I don't know. Wait, she don't listen to
It's
this
also
show.
I
Luis,
want
no
to say
snitching.
like this this is really I've said this before, but I will say this again to echo Doc's point and the facts that we're sharing in this episode. I know he's going to be talking soon here about niches and about niching or niching down, right? And I will say, as someone who started this is my year 3 of my personal podcast, I'm in like a very crowded space for that show and I'm having no problem finding an audience. Like so it's not I'm not at like millions of listeners at this point, but I have a really dedicated audience of people that show up on a regular basis to listen to the show. And I'm like in movies, which is there's a million and one, like I might as well be in true crime. And yet there's still an audience. So if you're sitting out there going, oh, well, the thing that I really want to do my show about is a really crowded space, or there's, a ton of different podcasts out there that are in that space, there's still room for you and there's still the opportunity to find a really dedicated community. And as many of our experts out there say, you don't need millions to be successful. Like you need, 100 fans, 100 people that stand by you, that support you, even 20. Pretty impressive what you can do with 20 people that show up week after week. So yeah, don't sell yourself short. And as Doc said, don't put it off because it may feel crowded, but that does not mean that there isn't a home for you here.
It's funny how in the content creation space, we hear lots of noise about saturation.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that hilarious because nobody says it's oversaturation when you want to go add yet another car to the road when you live in Boston traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says it's saturated, Marshall, with your 5, 7, 8 kids. I don't know how many he has, but it's way more than one. Right? Nobody says it's oversaturated while you're bumping ugly and producing humans. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it oversaturated in the podcasting? It's not. It's no such animal. Like literally, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I got incredible stats. I'll break into this real quick.
Yeah, let's break into it.
YouTube. I talked about this on the last episode, I believe, but I want to reiterate it for 2025. YouTube stats last year over 1 billion hours of podcasts watched on YouTube on physical TVs every
Mm-hmm.
single day in
Mm-hmm.
a 24-hour period, 100 billion hours. And I remember when I was saying YouTube is going to do podcasting, all my friends was like, man, you crazy. YouTube can't do podcasts, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, just watch, hold my sake. It's coming through. And then
Oh,
in
that's
a year and a
okay.
half, because basically Podfest, not Podfest, Podcast Movement Denver, a year and a half
Mm-hmm.
ago, Kai Krause said we're going to do it by the end of the year. They did it. We talked about this about this time last year, and in that literally 12-month period, 1 billion hours every single day on YouTube podcasts on TV sets. We're not even talking about your phone, your iPads, whatever, your watch, whatever you do. So that's incredible. That's incredible. That means that the audience is out there, homie. The audience is out there waiting for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that's going to pop off this year and is going to be relatively huge is something that's known as the always on show. That
Mm-hmm.
means the type of shows that are releasing episodes extremely frequently. Um, Aubrey is a good example of this because she has her morning minute ish and she does it every day, and they're not super long. They're short. They're unedited. You're just putting out info. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't turned it into a podcast. I don't even know why I didn't think of this yet, but today makes day 68 of a video every single day on YouTube, haven't skipped
Yep.
a single one. I could easily turn that into like some sort of Gen X creator podcast. I actually
Mm-hmm.
already have a name for it. It's called Creator 50. I could easily just
Yeah, I was gonna
take
say you
those.
have a space.
I,
Yeah.
I could take those and then crush them and turn them into a lot of them don't require a visual, but hold
Mm-hmm.
on that thought. Hold on that thought, people. Um, One thing that's absolutely incredible about this situation is the video side of podcasting has exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Katie and I have been going to countless shows and staying in crappy Wyndham hotels with the Wawa outside.
And the
And
theme of every one of those shows, or like the main topic of every one of those shows for the last couple of years, and still Podfest going in this year, is all like video first. Like it started as like a track where it was like, well, this is the video track, and it was like somewhat attended but not as popular as the other tracks. And then it was like the biggest track, and then it was the main theme of the show, and now it's just like the thing. So it's certainly it's creeping up quickly, and it's not going anywhere. But it's been funny to watch the like going from kind of like we'll talk a little bit about video to like this whole event is about video.
that's just incredible, right? When you think about it, because it just goes to tell you, like, listen, the opportunity is here. And
Mm-hmm.
I know so many people like still struggle with this concept, and it's in your head. it is kind of like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. It's in your head. You
Mm-hmm.
really just got to get out there and just do it. Like I don't I don't want to keep drumming that horse, but it's exactly that, right? So the the other thing that's happening besides the always on shows is what's known as hyper niche content. So
Mm-hmm.
Katie's content, in a way, although it's film and cinema entertainment related, it is hyper niche in the fact that they're trying to stick to a genre.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more important with the quote unquote saturation that you focus in on that niche that's yours. Now, some of you guys are entertaining enough that you could just do a personality channel. That's a little hard. Most people don't want to sit down and listen to you. Even the celebrities who absolutely can do a personality channel are hyper niching their podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the most beautiful things on the internet right now, if you enjoy a good belly laugh, is Conan Needs a Friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
That's
an
a great one.
HBO show.
Yep.
And then I think he looked at the HBO contract and he said, "Hold up, girl. I could just turn this into a podcast on YouTube and keep all the money
Mm-hmm.
until HBO Skinemax to take a hike." Because the level of production is literally Conan sitting in his studio, which I believe is at his house. Like
I think
he's
it's at
not
his
like
house.
at the
Yeah.
kind of studio where there's, a big camera on wheels and like 17 people with headphones. It's just him, road producer. Jordan comes in sometimes, and now him and Jordan have also spun off their second show. So now Conan's on two shows. And then they either bring in the actual celeb to sit with him and talk, or they talk over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you whether or not he's using Ecamm. You figure that one out. He basically just talks to his homies at his house, and he's out downloading his show that was on freaking TV.
Yeah. I think for a few different reasons. I mean, certainly control and accessibility and what he's able to do and how frequently he's able to put it out and where he's able to put it out is less gated. But I think also there's something to be said for how authentic and I know we don't I know that word gets overused, but like how real that experience is, particularly for celebrities, right? So like all of us want to feel like we have an inside look into his house. We want to have an inside look into like his actual relationship with other celebrities and professionals in the space. So like that show kind of is a little bit voyeuristic and that is I think what makes it stay as popular. So there's a couple of different things that are happening there that I think are worth calling out. And it is interesting you Doc you were saying like um the like so he has his studio like at home and it's a little bit like more kind of gritty for lack of a better word than like what he would have in an HBO like studio on site somewhere, whereas I feel like we're also seeing a huge swing where a lot more kind of everyday folk are building out really incredible studios and actually like welcoming people physically into their studio. So there's like almost this like swing on both sides where it's like people who have been in studios for a really long time are kind of giving a more authentic realistic look like and taking it a little bit simpler in their homes and doing a lot more remotely, and people who have been in their homes and like don't benefit from that are building kind of out these really big studios to add a level of professionalism and control and be so it there's both I think both sides of that coin are happening at the same time, so it's an
Yeah.
interesting place to figure out like where you want to be. Like there's a ton of people in the Ecamm community who are investing a ton in like spaces where, where again, they have like in-person interviews and like they're not using Zoom or interview mode or whatever at all. Like it's all just recorded like, in person. And then there's a ton of people who aren't in person anymore and are doing so it is interesting kind of on both sides of that coin.
I think it was really interesting as well is that I don't know if anybody else is running into this, but I've popped into Starbucks and see people in the corner
Mm-hmm.
recording podcasts.
Yep.
I was just like, these guys, they had a little what do you call that thing? The Zoom H4n recorder. They had
Mm-hmm.
their two little microphones, and they were sitting there with the headphones on in the Starbucks, like recording a podcast. And I just wanted to put a sign up and be like, "Is that just so cute?" But I just think that's cool. Like we're at the level where it won't be odd to see someone sitting at the gate at an airport recording a podcast pretty soon. Like
Yep.
that kind of stuff is coming. So please understand this. And it's not, I don't want you to get scared because the celebrities are coming, but they are. Also, after the Hollywood strike, a lot of these guys realize, but in a way, instead of being scared, I want you to see it the way Burger King, except Amesbury, is always across the street from McDonald's.
Yep.
Why? They were smart enough to put themselves in a position where people are already going to go where people are already hungry. So you're
Yep.
doing your podcast now while all these celebrities are making brand new shows. And these shows are great, by the way. Some of them are a year old, most of them not much more than a year, but a lot of celebs are dropping shows. Ask Chelsea is incredible. Trevor Noah podcast is dope. Simon Sinek's podcast is dope. Like all these guys are out here making shows. So all they're doing is validating the business. And because the way YouTube and other podcast situations aggregate the recommendations, you're liable to get recommended right behind some celebrity who's doing the show in your
Yeah.
niche. I'm waiting for one of the celebrities who's super into true crimes to do a true crime. And because of that fake TV show on Apple Podcast, I wanted to be Octavia. I want her to do a true crime show because her voice on that show, or as I call her, and Karen always gets mad at me. I was like, look at Diana on TV. Super, super cool. So let me run through some more stats real quick. The demographics are crazy. I something for next month, just so you know, that 59% of African Americans and 63% of Hispanics, so that covers me twice, are podcast listeners. That's incredible. So if you're worried about diversity, or I want to do a diversity oriented podcast, I want to do something hella cultural, you're fine. Like your audience is there. And the thing that's really incredible is podcast listeners on average have a higher educational attainment and income levels in comparison to those who do not. So that means your opportunity to, let's say, monetize or expand your business or whatever your case is for your podcast is extremely high. There's just a large amount of people with a decent amount of budgets listening to your show. And um, yeah, I covered the female part. That's good. Gen Z is up there, of course. Gen X is also really high. And
Mhm.
then if we get into trends, this is the hot ticket right now, just so you know where we are in the space of listenership. There has been a massive increase in consumption. Monthly and weekly listenership has increased constantly. So that means you got better chance of getting listened to. K Walk's going to love this. Comedy, number one. New
Yep.
society and culture is now number two. True crime has been
Mm.
bumped down to number three.
Yeah. And that also echoes into what you were saying about the always on podcasts. I think, there's more of these kinds of daily podcasts, which then require them to be in that news culture, like in a space where they can have a ton of information that's on a regular basis to be able to play with. So that makes sense.
I'm reading in the chat, and it said that he has somebody who records at the airport on a regular basis because they travel a lot. So yeah,
Mhm.
podcasts are already recording at the airport. Look,
Yeah.
it's just there. It's just there. It is really, really amazing. And then Michael had asked this question: are video podcasts becoming in-person talk shows?
Mm.
Is that going to become a standard? Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
Michael, you have an advantage over pretty much everyone because being a famous actor up in the north, or where Katie's from, the Canada, um, you already got all the skills to pay the bills. Like you know exactly what to do. So
Yeah.
even I was saying earlier, personality podcasts themselves are harder, but if you take a personality and you attach it to a topic that you enjoy, and you talk about that, like it's just it, like it really is just it. So whether that's teaching mac stuff or talking about public speaking, you can, I mean, it's real simple. Turn your eCam on. I know you already have it, you're very proficient. Just record your segment. It can be 10 minutes. Everybody's under this assumption podcasts have to be long and overproduced. There are podcasts that I listen to that are 5 minutes a day. and
Mhm.
I just listen to them because they're basically Mac news. I'm just catching up on my Mac news now that I'm no longer a Mac tech writer. I still need to know what's going on in the industry because all my friends are still there. And every time we go somewhere, Katie meets another one of my weird Mac friends, and she's like, "Dang, this dude been around." So these are factual statements. Okay, so video consumption is up 50%. More than 50% of the newest podcasts released this year were also video podcasts. So
Yep.
back to what Katie said, we've been saying this for a hot minute, and what's really cool being an Ecamm user is you already have everything you need to record. We even have, okay, this is not a commercial, but this is a weird plug. We even have a podcast course. It's a video podcast course that Luis and Katie and myself created. And you could just watch it and follow along. It's relatively easy. If I want to give you something, it's super important that you hear this. If you listen and you feel something is missing, speak up
Let us
and we
know.
can
Yeah.
add it. Because that's the cool thing about courses, we could add it. It's a video course. So somebody had mentioned Doc kind of went fast on this part. And then Katie was like, "Can you redo that part?" And I was like, "Yeah." We just attach it to the page and then you can watch it. So any updates that we pick up at Podfest, they'll get added to the course. So that course
Yeah.
will constantly grow. So download it, bookmark it, lock it up in your situation. Paul will give you the link in a second because he has a Stream Deck button, as he always does. And then check out the video podcast course. Again, you kind of know what to do already. If not, ask Michael Kinney. He knows.
Yeah.
So there's
And we,
that.
I mean, as you said earlier, like we're almost at 100 episodes of this show. So we really just pulled out like the best information, over the years from this show that is relevant and helpful for you, broke it down and laid it all out in a really easy way for you to work your way through. So again, totally free, easy to access, easy to work your way through. And if you've been listening to this show, a lot of it will just be like a great reminder and a refresher and stuff that we've built on because almost 100 episodes in. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like, listen, this is so incredible, people. I've been jazzed about this. And when we first started this, we had no idea we were going to run 100 episodes. We were literally just going to show why you should kind of use Ecamm for podcasting. And then you guys showed up and you guys are like, "Hey, it's Tuesday. Where you at?" And we're like, "Oh, okay." We just keep going. So you can't even understand how easy it is to sort of get the flow. And yes, Ennis is free. You can stand up off the floor now before you get stuck down there.
Because
Thank you.
honestly, like what we're trying to do really, like the mission of this show is to excuse me, is to show you that it's easier than you think, it's possible, and being, if we can do it, you can do it, right? So being able to empower you to do it helps everyone, helps us at Ecamm, helps you, helps the community, helps everyone.
Yeah, and we kind of started it because we wanted to give you an excuse to get better at being on camera, and then you just became like a superstar. So there's that. All right, so we're going to with some stuff that's to look forward to. There has been prediction that podcasts will reach 584 million in 2025. That's
That's
crazy.
just
That's
crazy.
crazy balls. Also, I mean, of course, we understand if it's big, growing big in the US is also growing big globally. So there's the
Elsewhere,
thing.
yeah. Hmm.
And I think the thing to remember is that yes, AI is starting to get big in podcasting, and a lot of people are looking at the cool trick that is LLM. What's it called? Notebook LM.
Notepad, yeah, notebook, yeah. Hmm.
Notepad. That's it. Where you just basically give it a couple documents and it makes the podcast for you. No, like that's cool, but you don't really want to go that far. What we're thinking about is streamlining production, making editing easier, like Scenery was, and now they've moved into this new thing at Adobe called Project Violet. So they're coming
Hmm.
back with a vengeance, and with Adobe's backing, that makes it even better because you know that it's going to be good. We are going to be hanging out with the Adobe podcast team, Jay and Harm next week. So what they're doing is cool as well. Like you can do a mic check for your guests with podcast.adobe.com. You can do some basic editing there. You can sweeten your file. Like some reason your cat was yesterday, Cheryl was live streaming and Fergus, the cat, was the whole time. You can just take that out. So unless maybe Fergus was talking to Maestro, he was looking for Paul's cat. But just the fact that this AI stuff is there, And again, using it to help you with show notes, help you with editing, help you with fixing files. That's what we're really talking about. And it's only going to get better. I wouldn't go as far as to having it speak for me. That's a little crazy. That's a little crazy.
I think we're
But
going to
what
see a little bit of a pushback against that anyway, to be
I think
honest, because
so.
I think that, like, I think in certain genres of podcasts, it it will get less pushback than others. But I do think that many of the kind of niches and the topics that we are in, we are the listeners and the community are as committed to the host and the hosts and the guests and like the people as they are the content itself. Like you may have come initially to this show because you wanted to learn about video podcasting, but I'm willing to bet that there's something about Doc or myself or Luis or the Ecamm team or the Ecamm fam or the people you hang out with in the chat that have captured your attention and have made you become part of our community, have made you become a flow rider. And that you're not going to be able to capture with AI. So like if this was a show where it was like, I don't know, we were giving like updates on like some kind of, I don't even then, like I think as like community starts forming around a show, it like AI is never going to be able to take that community to the next level or foster or nurture a community the way that a person can. And it's noticeable. And I think viewers and listeners are now becoming more, the shock value is kind, we're a little bit on the other side of the shock value where people are like, oh, wait, like that was kind of cool and shocking and surprising that people can do that. And now it's like, oh, but like I want to connect with real people. I want to be learning from real people. I want someone to be able to ask questions to and feel part of their space and their place. So I think I think it's a great assistant, as Doc was saying, and a great intern and a great way to save yourself a ton of time in the actual production side of things and the marketing side of things. But as far as, I don't think it's ever going to replace people's personalities. I hope. I
Oh my
hope,
god.
right?
I am dying for
Yeah.
the comments right now. Saeed said he's only here for the doc and the occasional flow puns, which was funny because Saeed came up with a really good one. When we start to talk about stats, we got to call that section the flow charts.
I know,
Noted.
yeah.
Noted.
We
We'll
need
make
to
a
hire Saeed to be our chief pun officer.
we need graphics for that. That's really
Yeah,
good. The flow charts.
yeah. The
And
flow
then
charts.
I really like this one from Tora. She said, "Yeah, I came to learn how to use this Ecamm doohickey and ended up liking the bald guy Katie and Paul, making awesome friends."
Yeah, right? Right?
Who are you talking about? You mean Alec? Okay, good.
But I think it's true. Like, if you think about the shows that you listen to on a regular basis, like, I know that the shows that I listen to, there was something initially about the topic that, caught my attention or someone had recommended it, and I listened to it. And, and then it's the more that I listen to it, the more that I feel like those people are my friends. I know that they're probably not. The majority of shows I listen to are, the hosts are wildly popular and have no idea that I exist. But I still like am ride or die with them. Like, and if I knew or if I found out that that was an AI voice on the other side, it would be like incredibly heartbreaking for me to know that they are not real people. Like it. Did in your research, Doc, was there anything that came up about like I guess about the community side of podcasting? Like I think even over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of um, you know, podcasts and shows hitting the road and doing tours. We've seen like a lot more releasing like books and like and sort of connecting with their community in different ways in and around the podcasting space. Do you think that that's going to continue to grow? Are we going to
A
see like
hundred
a
percent.
different? Hmm.
100%. So, one of the things that was touched on was as you go into 2025, even more so, you should embrace the idea of building a podcast community or community around your podcast,
Yep.
doing live in person events, doing even like the Zoom just get together and drink up meetings, right?
Yeah.
There's a creator that I really enjoy. His name is Brandon Shaw. His podcast is called Digging the Crates, and that's an old DJ term. And we used to go to the record store and look for old obscure records to play in the middle of your show or
I
where
actually
you would
caught
find
that term. I'm
samples,
proud of myself.
right? What you
Yeah.
understood digging in the
I
crates?
understood. Yeah.
Okay. And so he did a New Year's Eve party where normally he's just on his show and we're listening to him and watching, but on New Year's Eve party, we all get to hang out in Zoom, and then he just mixed for like 4 hours, and then he was showing some weird avant-garde cuts, and then people were like, "Oh, remember this song?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, I remember this song." We're just hanging out in a Zoom room. So even something like that, where you got down like once a month and just told your listeners, like, we're just going to do a little quick hangout, bring a cocktail, which we've done for Ecamm. We would do
Yeah.
the Friday night, what do you call that thing? Happy hour. We would just
Happy
hang
hours.
out and
Yeah.
talk story. And you'd be surprised because Ken will pop up with a single malt and come and kick it with us. And everybody was
Hmm.
like, "You mean Ken comes to these?" And it was like, "Yeah, it's his software." Like him and his brother own this thing. It turns out. So you can do this, people. You actually have all the tools you need. The biggest help in the last couple of months has been the Ecamm Zoom integration.
Hmm.
And not just because I work here, but in general, it makes things so much easier. So when I record my show on Tuesday, right after this, I have the Zoom room open. Anybody who has joined the member of the channel gets to hang out in the Zoom room. And oftentimes, I'm talking or, going through my points. Mary Lou's talking, going through her points, and somebody in the Zoom chat can pipe up and say something. But that gives you a cool after show. It gives you a
Hmm.
pre-show capabilities. We do this with Twit. We have everyone hanging out in the Discord when we're recording, and we have conversation going on in there. So community is massive. Like I always say, try it in your head. You can't help but say audience because you've been saying that word your whole life. But you should always, when you say audience, you mean community. You
Hmm.
should always substitute audience for community, and you should always substitute audience for algorithm. So it's kind of a equation just happened. If audience equals community and audience equals algorithm, therefore algorithm equals community. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
There we go.
I just passed math. I just passed podcast math. I get a certificate.
Uh, I was scrolling back through because I did see that there were a couple of questions that came up that are probably good for us to
Yeah, I
cover
saw Mike's
while we're
question.
recording.
Michael had a question about like using getting the most out of Ecamm for video podcasts beyond just
Yeah.
recording your camera. I think there's a couple wins that you can do there. So one, now that we have the Zoom situation, you can do meetups, which we just spoke about, which is absolutely incredible.
Kind of like a
Uh,
backstage space. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, like a backstage space, which is super
Hmm.
cool. And then the other one, which is a big win, is we've incorporated with Opus Clips, and Opus Clips now has a situation called Clip Anything. So you could even do part of your news segments or your reactions or whatever using a combination of what you record in Ecamm plus something that you might, a video that you might want to clip or comment upon. And then you can use Opus Clips to slap those together, use that as promotional consideration in your shorts or things of that nature. Now, here's one that I think a lot of people don't think about, but I've been thinking about a lot lately. Record a this is a thought that I'm having in my head segment, right? And it's going to be like 4 or 5 minutes. You're going to take that and you're going to transcribe it. You're going to go to your friendly AI situation and you're going to have it help you formulate that into more of a newsletter type article. You're going to put that video plus that text inside kit.com. Um, and then you're going to send that. So you can
Hmm.
send news bites, news updates via newsletter. A lot of people don't think about using Ecamm to add a little piece of video segment to your newsletter, but that's amazing. It's super easy. And of course, by all means, dude, Ecamm for recording courses is clutch. It's super, super clutch. I've been recently playing with a app called Gling, Gling,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like the script mini, but it's a really neat way to just record your podcast or your video in Ecamm, throw that file at Gling. Gling will shorten the spaces, allow you to do sort of text oriented editing, and then you can open that up in Final Cut for final cleaning. And it's glorious and it's super easy, super cheap. It's 15 bones. So there's a bunch of cool stuff that you can do there. You have anything extra, Katie?
No, I was just thinking more too about like So certainly you can use Ecamm for podcasting. That's what we're doing here for this show, and that's kind of the point of this show. But I think what actually makes it the most special of the podcasting recording tools is that it's more than podcasting. So like what you just said, I think makes it a really powerful tool for everyone to have if you are podcasting, because sure, it records the podcast, lets you bring in guests, you can add, cool graphics and branding and all that stuff. It makes all of that really easy, and it records all of the isolated files so you can do any kind of editing, etc. afterwards. But yeah, again, like it makes it super easy for you to like clip up, yeah, any of the content you create, record like separate marketing content that you might want to share in and around, turn your podcast into like all of these other different things, right? So if you're thinking big picture about your show, which we hope you are, you should be thinking about more than just the actual recording of the show and all of the stuff that goes around that you should be using AI to help you with. Like that's all the stuff that is important to the success of your show, right? So I think Ecamm is in a really unique space in that you can use it for every single aspect of video creation and in many cases repurposing as well. So if you get really clever about it, it's it's pretty, not, I wouldn't say easy, it's still work, but it's pretty easy, I guess, to build out a really seamless workflow and a really seamless system around it, so that you are just growing and making those forward movement steps, whether you decide that you want to be an always on podcast or your weekly or your monthly, or it's short or it's long or it's vertical or it's wide, any of these different aspects, it is the tool that will help you be able to do that, um, in many cases at the push of a button. So I
Yeah,
think it,
yeah, it's really incredible the things that have made this whole process so much more approachable. And I think now really the main thing that's holding anyone back from doing any of this stuff is themselves. Like
mhm.
we're at the point now where microphones are now getting cheaper and inexpensive.
Yep.
Um, Short just dropped a brand new mic today. It's an MV7i, which I'll
Mm-hmm.
be talking about soon. So stay tuned.
Be right
um,
back. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, listen, there's so much cool stuff happening, and it's easy to record now. It's easier to edit now. It's easier to post now. You can use AI to help you with ideation, help you with research, organization, and planning. I've been playing a lot with Milanote for planning. It's similar to ClickUp or Notion, but it's just extremely drag and drop and visual. So if you're the type of person that likes to have a bunch of paper spread out all over your desk, Milanote's kind of like that, but prettier and less crap on the desk. And collaboration is there. So like
Yep.
I can have this document open, anyone can see it. Nowadays you could even do open whiteboards in Canva that you could let your community add stuff to the board that you do in your podcast. I mean, like we are coming up with so many ways to simplify this process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only going to get better. The longer you wait, the more difficult it's going to be. So
Yep.
I want to give you a strange analogy because this is what I do. Way back in the day, when people first got to California and you saw that they didn't get eaten in Oregon, they told you there's opportunity here and you should come now while there's nobody here. And everybody's like, no, not going over there. It's new. There's nobody going to come and see me. Like they didn't think about it. You could have gotten gigantic pieces of land in California for a couple $100. And the people that listen to that are billionaires today. The people
Mm-hmm.
that didn't listen to that just stayed packed in on the East Coast. Like, I don't want to go that far. And now, if you try to buy something in California, a parking space is 300 grand. This is where podcasting is right now. Even with all the numbers and all the growth and everything, it's still a baby in comparison. And you have so many opportunities to do it now. So you're going to keep psyching yourself out. And then you're going to watch one of your friends, somebody in the Ecamm fam will get a podcast that blows up. And next thing you know, they're super rich. And you're going to be like, I started Ecamm before them. Like, why didn't I go that? Because you. So this is your opportunity to not be scared and just do it. And also, maybe you don't want to blow up, which is cool. Maybe you want to just have fun, which is absolutely okay. Do that, right? And I tell you what's going to happen next year. This is also my prediction for next year. Not exactly podcast related, but since Bobby Vegas, aka Deal Billy, showed up. Hi, Billy.
Hey,
Um,
Billy.
Billy has been on the live selling thing for going on close to 3, 4 years now. This is the year where it would absolutely explode. You're going to see lots and lots of brands doing live selling, even bigger brands. You're going to start to see basically little mini QVCs popping up, and even that could be a podcast for you. There's a
Mm-hmm.
guy on YouTube, I believe he's in the like 10 million follower range. You know what he does? Every week, this is what you should be buying at Costco. This is what you should be buying at Sam's Club. That's all he
Mm-hmm.
does. He goes to Costco once a week, films what kind of new stuff they got, and he posts that. And it's so dumb and it's so silly. And he's a used car salesman looking cat, but he has choke people that follow him. And you know what? I watch it because I like to go to Costco beeline, because if you start having ADD moments in Costco, it will cost you. It will
Yeah.
cost you
Yeah.
an
You don't want to mess
absolute
around. You want
grip.
to do the things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I went to Costco the other day just to get coffee cream and cheese. I left out of the Costco $200 lighter because I discovered some other stuff that I bought, which had
Mm-hmm.
was not on the list. And I told myself, go at 7:30. You only got a half an hour to move through there. Don't go anywhere but where you need to go. You know what happens? You're walking and it's on the end cap. And you're like, ooh, let me get that too. Let me. So yeah, trust me, you can make a show about anything. You just have
Yep.
to be willing to put it out there. So,
Yeah.
Ennis said, fun. I want money. Thank you, Ennis. I like that. I like that. I like that. Yes. Yeah. So trust me, everything is possible, people. I just want you to go in there and find your flow, get to
Yep.
town, and we're going to come back with updated information from Podfest. So look forward to this is what we think is fitting to happen, and this is what's going to happen, and this is what actually happened. So we're going to have a kind
Yeah.
of three
And
part series.
please, if if you're if you're part of the fam and you've been hanging out with us and you have a question about podcasting, like we are about to be in front and around all of the top names in podcasting, all of the different brands, but are happy to ask your question for you. So send that question along to us. We will ask it for you. We will follow back up with you and share all the information that we learned, all of our notes, answers to your questions. So let us know. We don't know what you're thinking until you tell us. So send a note along, whether you post it in the community or send it to us, flow@ecam.com. We're more than happy to ask any questions that you have. Get in front of the people that you want to learn more from. We're happy to be your people on the ground there in Orlando. So let us know what we need to ask.
What's the biggest thing for this year that you either think is going to happen or you look forward to?
What is the biggest thing that I think it's going to happen or I'm looking forward to? I just I feel like I don't know. I'm just generally excited. It feels like it's been like this big growing space for a while now, but this year feels like it's clicked for a lot of people. And so I think we're going to see a lot of the kind of people who haven't been taking it all that seriously. Like a lot of shows just kind of fall by the wayside, and the ones who have been consistent and who have been growing, even in small amounts consistently, I think are now going to have like the runway. I think it's just going to click for a lot of people, which I think is just going to be hugely exciting for us to see. And the people who have just been screwing around are not going to be able to get away with screwing around anymore. So I think it'll be good to see kind of that next movement. But I don't know. I'm excited for a year of just like there's a ton of opportunity out there in a lot of these spaces that many of us are now pretty good at. So there's no, as you were saying, there's no reason why we shouldn't all be really successful at this. We have all of the tools, we have all of the gear, and it's never been cheaper. So it's just a matter of lining it up, knocking it down.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this recently, but Oprah just sort of relaunched a new show and she films it in her living room in Maui.
Mhm.
And she's Oprah. So she actually flies the people to her house
Mhm.
and they're sitting there and she has these colorware PC like green painted short SM7Bs. I'm like, how do I get Oprah two green Doc Pops?
I know, yeah, it's custom make Oprah dog pop. Well, it
I'm like,
is.
listen, Oprah, I need you to get these on your microphones. It look really good on your set.
It's like it's all kind of leveling out, I guess, for lack of a better word, which is really cool. So like it, certainly I'm sure some portion of you, I know even myself, like you're like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna get into this space, but there are all these celebrities that are also getting into this space, and there's all these people who have these huge budgets that are also getting into this space. But I think like the celebrities and big budgets are trying to like simplify and make it something different than what they've done before, whereas a lot of us who are not famous and are doing it kind of bootstrapping it the best we can, like we now have a lot of the tools and things are getting a lot cheaper, so we're reaching the kind of these middling points where any kind of format of show is possible, and there's nothing
A
that's
hundred
not
percent.
like like you were saying, like you could record an entire show like on the go, and the microphones and the technology to do that are now so good that it'll sound great and you'll be fine. You can build an entire huge gorgeous studio and invite people in, and that show also will do well. So there's no wrong format, there's no wrong amount of money to spend or not spend. Like and everything is kind of leveling out to this space of like you find what you like and those are your shows, you find what you love to do, and that's what you will do and continue to do. So there's no more excuses on the like I need to have XYZ thing in order to do this, or I need to have this specific kind of plan, or I need to wait until these moments. It's fine, the format and the style and the content and the people that make you happy and make it click for you, and go.
And go.
That's what
hundred
you need to
percent.
do.
100%. There's so many podcasts that are recorded in the bathroom with an iPhone held like an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah,
Like it
and
really is.
and celebrities now are doing this, right? So like it's
Right. So
like now they're coming down to this space to prove to all of us that us waiting to be Oprah isn't going to make us Oprah, because Oprah now is doing it in her home. So like
yes,
it's
with
hopefully
two
proves the point.
SM7Bs. Like there's people who would be like, oh, I mean, she literally has two SM7Bs, a small mixer, and some a single camera. Like she's not even going crazy with it.
Yep.
So it goes to show you. To me, the setup is going to become some similarly analogous to a car.
Yep.
Everybody who drives has one. So everybody who has a podcast, you have something. And it's just a
Yep.
matter of whether you went all the way, Ferrari GTB Spider, or whether you got a Fiat, the little
Yep.
small, tiny little Fiat that you can fit two of them in the same parking space. And
And
but
but a
they all
lot of
they
it,
all go to Costco the same.
that is actually a really great analogy, because what's important there is like some people buy like a luxury car because they like it, and some people buy it because they can afford it, and some people buy it as a status symbol. Some people rock a old beat up truck and love that, and that's their thing. So like keep that in mind as you are
I
thinking
got
about
both.
podcasting, because I think we talk about this all the time, but we all overthink it, and we have this like vision in our head of what it's supposed to be. Think of it like a car, like you need to have a car to get where you're going, but the car that you choose is entirely your vibe. Like, do you like to fix up old cars? Do you like the newest coolest car? Do you want an electric car? Like, all of those are your choices, and there's no wrong. It's just what fits you best. So it's the same thing for your podcast format. It's the same thing for like how you build your show and what your show looks like. So that's a great. I think that's great, Doc. I think that's a really smart way to look at it, because budget shouldn't play into it. As that's what I'm trying to tell you all.
No,
Like
it definitely shouldn't. And it
2025, stop worrying about the numbers. You can do
It's
this with
just
any
you really
level.
have to get in
Yeah.
motion. At the end of the day, you really, really have to get in
Yeah.
motion, and that's
Yeah.
literally the key takeaway there. And like Daryl said, it's really more about people looking for real people. And this is something that I've been
Yes.
talking about a lot lately in my content,
Yep.
especially. So I've been focusing a lot more on the Gen X creators, and I don't think people understand this. People are looking for connection. right? The one thing I was joking with Paul the other day, it's funny but not funny. Nobody told me that after you pass 50, you got to be prepared once a month to get email that one of your friends died, or
Mm,
GoFundMe that one of your friends is sick. But it just happens. That's the case, the cause of aging. So, people are their kids are going to school, they're leaving, or the kids are all gone now, so they can finally get a divorce or whatever the case may be. A lot of people, the what do you call this? The loneliness factor is growing big time. So people are looking for a connection, and so people just want you to be real. And like the whole perfection thing, it's so far overdone. Like I'm almost sick of talking about it,
yeah.
but the perfectionism will ruin you because nobody even wants that right now. Nobody even wants to see the celebrities do a perfect show,
No.
right? So everybody wants everybody to just be real because we have found out really, really harshly in 2024 that a lot of our celebrities were full of crap,
Mm-hmm.
and there's too much broken glass. We know you found out the Wizard of Oz was a dude in a box. That came to fruition in the last couple of years. And so
Yeah.
people are so over it. I would rather talk to my neighbor or any one of you guys than look up to some person who's basically full of crap. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying this on podcasts for years when people are like, oh, who inspires you or who you look to for inspiration, any celebrities you look up to. And my answer has always sounded corny, but for the last ever since Kevin Spacey, I stopped doing that. My
Mm-hmm.
inspiration comes from me. I look inward, and that's why it's called inspiration. It's not called outspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So I look into myself, and it's not to be selfish or cocky or whatever. It's because nothing sucks more than to find out the Wizard of Oz is just a dude in a box.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I said, and Saeed with the spoiler alert, that Santa is not real. Like that is just really, really messed up. So all the magic that you need is in you. Like you have everything you need. Just
Yeah.
get started. So if you need a place to host that sucker, though, what you want to do is check out Captivate. You go over to captivate.fm, and it's a really good platform. There's lots of platforms out there. We like Captivate because it has a growth mindset. Once you finish your show at Ecamm, you're just going to take the audio version, you're going to feed it to Captivate. Captivate will handle everything. It will send it out. How to do this is so easy. Check out our podcast course. We have a whole section on how to do it. It's really incredible. We love Captivate. Captivate is great. And if you want to know more about the podcast, all you need to do is go over to flow.ecamm.com. That's flow.ecamm.com. So leave us a message, leave us a voicemail, leave a review, and let us know what you want us to talk about. If there's something that you're like, I really need to hear their take on this, bring it up, as long as it's not the Baltimore Ravens, Yolanda. Okay, there we go.
This is not
We
a
did it.
sports podcast. We did it. We did it. Wow. I
Oh my
I
god, I
will
watched
see
your
you
boys
in a
live the other day. I
week.
watched If These Balls Could Talk, and I was trying to chat to them, but I was doing stuff in the kitchen, my hands were jacked, and I was like, oh, I wish I could just
Oh.
voice like spam them. But they were doing a really
Mhm.
cool episode, and I was like, oh, I wanted to say hi to them.
I love that. I love it. We should start adding Podpage in as a sponsor because they that voicemail
Oh,
feature on
that's
their
great.
site is my
It's
favorite.
so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. All right, gang, we'll wrap this baby up. I am Doug Rock. Um, I'm working at Ecamm. I'll tell you more about that later.
We've lost all of our flow. We need to be back at it next week. We will see you all next week. Send us emails with all your questions about Podfest. We're happy to hang out with you, ask your questions, spend the day at Disney with you, everything in between. So hopefully we will see you there.
There you go. And next week's episode will come to you live from the Flow Studio, or maybe we'll invade Glenn's office and go use the Flofa.
Yeah, Flofa
Flow Riders out.
out. Bye, everyone.
Oh my God, that's too funny.